Welcome to Filling the Staffing Gap with available and productive talent who happen to have disabilities. This session was produced in partnership with the ARC of Northern Virginia and Diversify Consulting Group. The session is educational, focused on business needs and the awareness of availability of talent. My name is Catherine McCary, and I'm very pleased to share today's session with my two esteemed colleagues, Lori and Diane. They're both board members of Disability in DC Metro, as well as disability experts in their respective organizations. The Disability In organization is the local chapter of Disability In, and our mission is building the business network for disability inclusion. We bring the business community together to learn and share information about the value of including people with disabilities in the workforce. We provide education, training programs, and resources so that employers learn how to include people with disabilities in the workforce, the marketplace, and supply chain. And joining me is Lori Daly. Lori?
Thank you, Catherine. So disability, part of the equity equation. In recognition of the important role people with disabilities play in a diverse, inclusive, and innovative American workforce, the theme for National Disability Employment Awareness Month, NDEAM 2022, is disability, part of the equity equation. It's observed annually in October, and NDEAM celebrates the contributions of America's workers with disabilities, past and present, and showcases supportive, inclusive employment policies and practices. This is the 32nd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act signed into law in 1990. The ADA Amendments Act became law in 2010. It's one of the most comprehensive pieces of civil rights legislation that prohibits discrimination in all areas of public life, including jobs, schools, transportation, and all public and private places that are open to the general public. Some exceptions exist, but if you employ 15 or more full-time employees for at least 20 calendar weeks, it applies to you. Far from constricting businesses, it actually provides guidance on how to open up your accessibilities to employees and customers by understanding how to interact more easily with those with disabilities. So let's get started. I'm Lori Daly. I'm the president of Diversify Consulting Group, and we are a women-owned small business and a certified disability-owned business enterprise, Adobe. We are Mid-Atlantic ADA Leadership Network trainers. We provide webinars, workshops, consulting on a wide range of topics, from disability awareness and etiquette guidelines to understanding ADA rights and compliance, to disability disclosure strategies and best hiring practices. One of our disability employment strategies now includes working with a key immersive technology company to develop a role player workforce initiative of people with disabilities to authentically participate in interactive training in multiple industries. On a personal note, I formed Diversify CG based on my unique experiences and understanding as a business owner, a manager, recruiter, and somebody with a disability. And as a person with a disability, I can attest to how challenging it is to receive support, dispel the myths and perceptions around that word disability, and feel there's a safe place to ask for help. And for companies and hiring managers, I understand the fears and misperceptions and biases, sometimes unconscious, sometimes conscious, over what a person with a disability can and cannot do. The foundation of what we all do and what we hope this webinar will propel is welcoming in talented, qualified people with disabilities into your workforce, and in doing so, showcase your company. Diane?
Thank you, Lori. I'm the Director of Programs with the ARC of Northern Virginia, the local chapter of a national organization that supports the full inclusion and participation of individuals with disabilities in the community. We do this by providing training and education through workshops and webinars, by providing web-based technology tools that help people live and work more independently, and by creating guidebooks and fact sheets that provide information to access resources to live a successful and meaningful life in the community. I started early in my career by providing direct support services to people with disabilities who wanted to be and were employed in the community. It was an amazing opportunity to make that connection, to find that employment match. A job provides all of us with an identity, and it gives us meaning and purpose. Businesses need people to work, and people who have disabilities are often overlooked as a potential to solve staffing needs. It's difficult to just get their foot in the door. People with disabilities can be successful employees given the chance, making it a win-win for employers and employees alike. So what is a disability? A disability defined under the ADA and ADA Amendments Act is a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities or bodily functions. Major life activities include eating, walking, hearing, seeing, and working. This also includes a person who has a history or record of an impairment, even if it isn't classified as a medical disability, or a person who doesn't have a medical disability, but is regarded as having a disability. An example of this would be if a person had cancer in the past and is in remission, but does not get a promotion because the employer is concerned the cancer will return and he would not be able to do his job. Disability is all around us. Even if you don't have a disability yourself, you are likely to have family members, friends, neighbors, or colleagues with disabilities. To better understand the disability community, let's look at the statistics. 13.7% live with a mobility disability, which includes mobility, strength, dexterity, and stamina. 11% live with a sensory disability, and of these, 4.6% have a vision disability, and 5.9% are deaf or hard of hearing. 10.8% are neurodivergent individuals, meaning how their brain processes information differently. This includes anxiety, autism, ADHD, Down syndrome, dyslexia, epilepsy, chronic mental health conditions such as bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and depression. And now Lori will discuss disability in our community.
Thank you, Diane. There are 61 million Americans that have a disability, and anyone can experience a disability at any time. It is the largest diverse minority population in our country and the third largest market segment in the United States. 1 in 4 people around you have some type of disability, and in all walks of life. They're business leaders, Nobel Prize winners, world-class athletes, truck drivers, teachers, artists, your coworkers, managers, family members, and you. And people with disabilities represent the largest source of untapped talent in our country. Disability is part of the human condition. So, generally seeing a person in a wheelchair or wearing a hearing aid or carrying a cane or some type of assistive device tells you that someone may have a disability. But you can't always make assumptions about what a disability looks like because oftentimes it's non-apparent. There's an extensive list of conditions people could be living with that may be non-apparent: diabetes, multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, lupus, chronic back pain. The list goes on and on. 96% of people who live with chronic medical conditions live with symptoms that are non-apparent, and you may never know because disclosure, it's personal and up to the individual. So with so many types of disabilities, you certainly interact every day with somebody who has a disability. So you have to throw out any preconceptions because it could be any one of us at any time. Catherine?
Thank you, Lori. And one of the things that we really want to stress here are benefits of hiring people with disabilities. Given today's economy and needing to find talent, you should realize that people with disabilities can work and want to work. It's an ideal way to fill your current vacancies. People with disabilities are innovative. They've had to be. So add some innovation into your diversity. Increase your customer base. Sell to people with disabilities. Increase your community engagement. Increase your employee engagement. There's no cost or low cost supports if needed at all, and there are tax credits. Why wouldn't you want to include people with disabilities in your workforce? Tell us about skills and abilities, Lori.
Thank you. So do you know how to enhance your recruiting practices to source this untapped, incredible talent pool? For federal contractors, are you meeting the important aspirational goal of the OFCCP, the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs? It's the key source of talent in our country, and it's about business and ensuring we have that talent to move forward. And there is still the quote unquote war for talent where innovative thinking is important more now than ever. And there are so many benefits. So what then would stop us from hiring experienced problem solvers, creative thinkers? If you were to conduct a survey of businesses across the nation, it would result in a myriad of reasons why employers are reluctant to hire people with disabilities. However, the reasons always lead to one prevailing theme: fear. Fear is the number one reason why there's a reluctance to hire people with disabilities and embracing a culture for welcoming in people with disabilities, which ultimately affects our delivery of goods and services. People are afraid of what they don't know. So let's address some of the common myths. Catherine?
Thanks, Lori. What we're going to look at now is a research study that's done annually by the Job Accommodation Network. It's a free service that's funded by the Department of Labor, Office of Disability Employment Policy, and it provides extensive technical assistance on accommodations based on the type of disability or condition. So before we talk about the number one myth that talks about accommodations and they're too costly, we should talk about what is an accommodation. So a reasonable accommodation, which is what we're talking about, is a modification or adjustment to a job or the work environment that enables a qualified individual to do their job. According to the study done by Jan, employers report that the majority of accommodations, if needed, cost nothing. 57% say it costs nothing. And many of us with disabilities don't require an accommodation to perform our job. And if an accommodation is needed, most cost less than $500. Let's go to myth 2. Diane.
Thanks, Catherine. Myth number 2 is that productivity will decrease. The fact, individuals with disabilities are just as productive as their non-disabled peers. DuPont conducted a survey of employees with disabilities and found 90% rated average or better in job performance. According to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission under the ADA, employers are not required to lower productivity standards for individuals with disabilities. Myth number 3, absenteeism is higher. The fact, according to the Personnel Journal, Society of Human Resource Management, and the National Organization on Disability, individuals with disabilities are no more absent from work than their non-disabled peers. Anecdotally, employers report that individuals with disabilities are more likely to have lower absenteeism and often motivate their teammates to be at work. Lori?
Myth number 4, coworkers and clients might be uncomfortable. The facts: according to the University of Massachusetts, Boston, the American public feels more favorably towards companies that hire individuals with disabilities. And over 90% of customers report they prefer to buy from a business that employs people with disabilities. Anecdotally, employers report that having individuals with disabilities in the workforce raises morale and that coworkers respond positively to working with these individuals. So having a disability inclusive workplace, it sends an important message as a company, as an employer. It's significant in attracting talent amongst job seekers. So myth number 5, it's difficult to terminate employment. The facts: all employees, including individuals with disabilities, should be treated fairly. You should follow the same process and procedures for performance issues and termination. People with disabilities may be terminated under the same due process used to terminate any employee. There is no inherent increased risk for a discrimination charge, and if a charge occurs, you have the necessary documentation to show that all company policies were followed. The majority of ADA employment-related disputes are resolved through informal negotiation or mediation. And anecdotally, employers report that having proactive recruiting, retention, and inclusion activities benefit the workplace as a whole and decrease risk of discrimination charges. So there are a number of resources to help you recruit qualified people, many in your own backyard. Local resources, American Job Centers, Veterans Job Bank, Centers for Independent Living, Vocational Rehabilitation and Employment Services, the ARC, and job boards, Ability Jobs, Getting Hired, Our Ability Connect, Disability and Veterans Community Resources Directory. You can find all these and more in the following resources. It's a great list here. The Office of Disability Employment Policy, which is part of the Department of Labor, and they also sponsor different technical assistant resources, including the Ask Earn, the Employer Assistant and Resource Network, which has many resources on recruiting, hiring, and retaining employees with disabilities, and the Job Accommodation Network, which Catherine mentioned earlier. It's a free resource on workplace accommodation and disability employment issues, and the Mid-Atlantic ADA Center. And at the ODEP, you will be able to see current disability statistics on labor force participation rate and unemployment rate. And just, again, it gives you a myriad of information that you will be able to use within your workplace. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Catherine.
Thanks so much, Lori, and welcome back, Diane and Lori. I'd like to end our presentation by thanking both of you, as well as our ASL interpreters from iYellow. Thanks for sharing your expertise. And what you've heard today is just a snapshot of how including people with disabilities in your employment is good for our community. It's good for people with disabilities, it's good for customers, it's good for all of us. So I ask you to look for opportunities to meet, engage with, employ, welcome as customers, and support people with disabilities. Let's keep moving forward to create diversity, equity, awareness, acceptance, and inclusion to make our communities stronger. Please reach out to us. Our information is there on the slide. Our email information is along with our website. We look forward to supporting you in this journey. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, everyone.